Good evening, class. Tonight I'm going to explain to you how when painting with gouache, a material that's very watercolor-like, although tricky at first, it will produce very timeless and unique pieces of artwork. I grew up around a very artsy family. My grandparents, my grandma particularly, always inspired me to paint and draw. This is what sparked my interest for painting now. Over the years I've used many different materials like acrylic, which is a more waxy, plasticky type of paint. It's not very easy to maneuver around. There's also oil painting, which is very sticky, but I never was very partial to a paint as much as I am to gouache now. Gouache is an opaque watercolor paint, whereas transparent watercolors allow you to see the white of the paper below the paint. Gouache can be applied in solid colors, allowing the artist to paint in layers from dark to light. Just as in watercolor, a natural binding agent is required. This was traditionally gum arabic, which is a natural gum made of hardened sap from various species of acacia tree. However, in the late 19th century, cheaper varieties used yellow dexatrin. 18th century in France, the term gouache was applied to opaque water media. Although the technique is considerably older, it was employed as early as the 9th century in Persian culture, and by the 14th century spread to Europe. Now, although gouache is my personal favorite medium to use, it is not always the most practical. If you are assigned a project where you have to use larger canvas, especially larger canvas or materials almost the size of a wall, it is not appropriate to use gouache. You will go through it very fast. These are typical gouache sizes. This tube alone can range from anywhere from $40 to sometimes $100, and these smaller tubes can go from anywhere to $8 or $40. I believe I paid, this was required last year at my school, I paid about $50 for this. I paid maybe somewhere between $16 and $20 for these smaller tubes here. It's very important to keep in mind to use the gouache sparingly. The cost of these will rack up. When I'm doing assignments, I usually use all of my black and white gouache paint. I usually go through at least one or two of these. It's very frustrating. That's why it's very important to know what size piece you're working on. Tinier pieces the size of this are much better than pieces half the size of the wall. It is very important to remember too, when you begin painting with gouache, you always want to start with your primary colors. That is a yellow, a blue, and a red. These are basic colors. They're used for mixing with black and white, and you can make a variety of different shades and tones. Your secondary colors would then be green and purple and orange. During the painting process, it is always important to remember to wipe any excess paint off. This makes it a lot easier to clean, and then should there be any touch-ups that need to be redone, the paint won't slide as much. You can take the Q-tip, and this is what I learned during my school sessions last year, that you can just kind of easily wipe it away, and then you can always paint right back on top of it. This isn't you always want to remember never to put too much water, because then it'll begin to drip. And although I am holding this plate sideways, that doesn't mean that a puddle of water won't sit flat on your canvas and maybe even leak through eventually. watercolor paper is very, very important to get. I made that mistake last year. I ended up paying for it out of pocket. You also want to make sure the surface is dry before adding any other extra layers of paint. If not, it'll run, and then when you are finished painting and your masterpiece is completed, you want to spray it with a varnish that'll set it and keep it in place. I have here a sample from last year. I made this last year. There's a varnish on top of it. Our assignment was to pick our favorite artist and copy a piece of artwork, and this is from my favorite artist, Isaiah Andrews. It took me some time to finish this. I still even would like to work on it more. I can see a lot of things that need some tweaking, but overall this is what a piece of gouache artwork may look like. It really was easier to get all these tones in different layers. With using gouache, oil paint, or acrylic, it would have been much more difficult.